Facing adversity is a universal human experience. It changes our surroundings and creates a new path for our lives. Images like this create a sense of inspiration and awe and excitement, but not all adversity is responded to in the same way. In fact, most of us lock away our adversities. We hide them. And we only share them with a colleague, a friend, a close family member, or maybe a counselor. But it's only revealed on our terms, if at all. And other types of adversity are misunderstood. They're painfully visible, but those around us don't understand what we're seeing. And people with this type of adversity have three options. They can cover for it, they can fake it, or they can own it. After high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to study international relations, become a diplomat, and work for the State Department. So I headed off to the University of California, Berkeley, which is arguably one of the best places in the world to study the collision of people and cultures and languages throughout the world. And in my freshman year, I got a part-time job working as a Berkeley guide. And my responsibility was to walk around downtown and help visitors and guests and residents alike find their way through the beautiful city of Berkeley. And on one Friday night, as we normally did, I was going through the BART subway station and I was going down the escalators. My first clue that this was not going to be a normal night was a woman was screaming, running up my down escalator. I got to the bottom of the escalators, and it was a Friday night. Everybody's going into the city, to San Francisco, to have a good time. So there's at least 100 people in the subway station, and they sort of parted just like the Red Sea as I got off the bottom of the escalator. And the scene that I saw in front of me was this exact glass ticket booth. But on that night, it was a different scene. A guy had broken into the ticket booth, and he was attacking the two subway workers inside. And they were screaming, they were up against the wall, and he was slamming their computers and breaking their keyboards, and he was slamming that door to the booth, and the booth was shaking violently, and the whole time he was screaming, "Give me the money back, give me the money back, give me the money back." And the two subway workers inside were terrified. But what I could see was that one of the subway workers, while she was up against the wall, she was also very sneaky. She was on the red emergency phone. And so I thought, okay, she's either calling the police or Batman, and it really didn't matter to me. All I wanted her to do was finish that call so the police could come, take care of business, and I could be on my way. So I yelled at the guy, "Hey, calm down, relax, take it easy." And he goes, "Huh?" and looked right at me. And I didn't quite have a plan B. So a little bit more polite, I said, "Sir, relax, calm down, just get out of the booth, take it easy." And it worked. He actually got out of the booth. But he jumped over that gate that you see just to the left there of the ticket booth and charged right at me. And that was my second clue. This was not going to be a normal night in the city of Berkeley. And so I basically braced myself, and he charged at me and struck me 4 or 5 times on the side of my head, and my world went black. Basically, overnight, everything changed. My path that was so clear had been changed really forever. I sustained a traumatic brain injury and a whole host of different deficits and symptoms as a result of that brain injury. Short-term memory loss, headaches, migraines, reading comprehension challenges, spatial orientation deficits, auditory processing issues, neuroocular and motor dysfunction. My eyes no longer worked together properly. But of all these deficits, the biggest challenge was this complete and total loss of purpose and identity. That sense of self was no longer there, replaced by overwhelming insecurity. I had to drop out of college, enter rehabilitation full-time, but after 2.5 years, despite one of my early doctors saying that I should consider trade school instead of a challenging academic environment, I did graduate. I have the record for the longest tenure to get your bachelor's degree at UC Irvine, 8 years. But I got my bachelor's degree after those 8 years. Thanks to some pretty extraordinary doctors and the best brain injury rehabilitation facility in the country, the Coastline Acquired Brain Injury in Southern California. brain injury program. I then went on to get my master's degree at the California State University, Long Beach. Go Beach, right? Right? And 11 years ago, I entered my organization as a frontline analyst. And I slowly worked my way up in that organization to my current position as an executive, helping oversee 1,100 employees and a $500 million budget. But there was a problem. As a result of the traumatic brain injury, my eyes no longer functioned correctly, and they could not filter the flicker and the color spectrum of fluorescent light. And when I would enter a fluorescent lighting environment or look at a screen lit by an LCD display, it would trigger incapacitating migraines and headaches and nausea, sometimes vomiting, occipital neuralgia, pain on my face, all kinds of different symptoms that would completely and totally incapacitate me. In fact, over 50% of traumatic brain injury patients actually suffer from light sensitivity, photophobia, but very few are diagnosed, and fewer of those are actually given the correct treatment and introduced to the right doctors. But I was once again very lucky. I was introduced to Dr. Valerie Wren, shown here in the blue shirt, all the way on your right, of the Western University Hospital facility and the Eye Care Center in Pomona, California. And Dr. Valerie Wren assembled a team, Dr. Liu and Dr. Chase standing there next to me, this incredible team that wanted to figure out what compensatory technique could they create, could they find to allow me to function more effectively in fluorescent light environments. Extraordinary people who decided to search the world to find the answer. And so the first step is they brought me into the lab and they put me in a colorimeter. And this colorimeter has the opportunity to change the hue, saturation, and brightness of the color spectrum, all the while measuring my physical symptoms and the way that I endure the light against that piece of paper inside in front of me. And as we went through the spectrum and we got to the blues and then we inched our way to the greens, my face started to relax at this exact color. A huge sense of relief as that green was eliminating the blues and the reds from the visual spectrum, narrowing the spectrum and only allowing the greens to be received by my brain. They mixed the lenses to the proper formula, had me test those lenses up to the light in a very controlled fluorescent lit environment, and voila, the result was these incredible, amazing sunglasses with frames produced in the UK by Cerium Labs, and the frames and lenses then put together by Theraspex in Southern California, which have allowed me successfully to block out fluorescent lights in fluorescent light environments, reducing my migraines by over 98%. I feel the same way. Now, if you're Bono or Yoko Ono, you can pull off wearing dark sunglasses indoors every day. But for me, that really wasn't quite the case. In fact, I'm guessing, you don't have to raise your hands, but I'm guessing that when I came out here, some of you might have thought I was being narcissistic or aloof or too cool or maybe undercover or something like that. Not sure, but I've heard all those things over the years. And so I could have avoided this problem and challenge, an interpersonal issue altogether, by avoiding fluorescent light environments. But unfortunately, I went into an industry that is absolutely obsessed with fluorescent light, government. Good old government. I mean, nothing says bureaucracy like the cold, pale glow of fluorescent light, right? Heartless in all of its imagery. And so what I do, I hid my sunglasses. I actually kept them in my briefcase. I didn't put them on. I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be ridiculed. I just wanted to be part of the group. And that triggered incapacitating migraines. I came home every day, laid out in my bed, and just could not function, all because I was too embarrassed and too humiliated to wear my sunglasses. But as I grew in my organization, what I realized is I was contributing to the inauthenticity of my work environment. I was not truly being who I am. I was hiding a big part about me, and I was causing an impact on not only myself, but others. So how do you create a path to authenticity? which has been my challenge since deciding to wear my sunglasses. The first step is we have to take a look inside and figure out what is it that's actually holding us back and disturbing and interrupting the relationships and connections that we have with other people. The second step is a strategy, figuring out, what am I going to do? Am I going to wear sunglasses? Is there something that I can do to address this deficit and this challenge? I'm not advertising, or I'm not expecting you to advertise your deepest, darkest emotional and medical secrets on the local billboards. But what I am saying is you have to spend some time thinking about how you're going to compensate and address this issue to create genuine connections. The third step is modeling, wearing your sunglasses and showing your colleagues, your fellow students, your faculty, the staff, those that you work with and interact with, that you are willing to show that you are human and have vulnerabilities just like the rest of the world. And the fourth step is the most exciting, promotion. This process is contagious. People feel this permission, this excitement to go ahead and wear their own sunglasses, figure out what's holding them back, and start the cycle anew, creating a wonderfully refreshing, authentic work environment. It's about taking your source of insecurity and transforming it into a source of empowerment, turning it on its head. You know, when I wore my sunglasses, it gave me a whole host of superhuman powers. I could work stronger, I could work better, I could work the hours required to do my job without the barriers and pressures and weight of fluorescent lighting. It was liberating. And it had a secondary effect that I never anticipated. As I started sharing my story about traumatic brain injury with different companies and organizations throughout the country and audiences and my own staff and different leadership development classes, every single time people come up afterwards and share their own stories of adversity and challenge. And sometimes for the first time with anybody, it's with me, which is amazing. I've heard stories of sexual abuse and stroke and dyslexia and all kinds of neurological disabilities and challenges, people finally feeling like they have the freedom to connect with who they are and be themselves. You know, if we're not authentic with ourselves, we're not going to be able to be authentic with others. Give others permission to wear their sunglasses, to own their adversity, and give yourself permission to wear your sunglasses indoors. Thank you.